Friendships. Friendship is life, as everything else is for me. It's a part of doing life with people, with others. The deepest friendships I have are those that have been forged in the fires of life and trial. One such friendship was started out as a mentorship where I reported to a new station. We were in law enforcement together, and my mentor, the first agent that I had to work with, were totally different. He was East Coast, I was West Coast. He was older and married, and I was younger and wild and single. He had a steadfast hand and a steady way of doing things, and I would rush in where angels feared to tread. To say that we were a perfect match, we weren't. But he was patient and knowledgeable about the things that I needed to know to do my job. And I was smart enough to listen and learn, and to also come to an understanding of who he was. In those times when we were together, we spent talking about life in general. But as with all things, we end up talking about our personal lives. Those things alone give you insight into each other's makeup, into how you think and how you feel about issues other than what you're dealing with every day. But when you deal with life and death situations, that tells a tale that's totally different. It tells a tale of who you can trust and who you can't, who you can count on to be there to back you up or have your back, and who would be there with your family should the worst happen. In many respects, that friendship was much like what Fitzgerald speaks about, of being one spirit, of being equal souls. Even though we were from different backgrounds and different ages, we came to realize that we had equal souls, in that deep down we loved people and we loved to help others, and that reached out to each other as well, to where we were confident at work with one another and loving enough off of duty to be able to call on one another should we need anything, or even to stop by on a day off and see how the other was doing. In many ways, it was as in John, where Jesus says a friend is someone who is so trustworthy that you can confide the deepest, darkest secrets. The times that we spent together, a lot of that sharing goes on. And this was a friend that I was willing to die for, and he was willing to die for me. But the nature of the business was we were willing to take a bullet to protect somebody else. But this was on a much deeper level. Many times when we were together, it was as Fitzgerald says about Peter, or as Paul, we had the same thing in mind. We had the same mind. We worked in harmony, even though there were so many differences between us. And there were many times that we had all things in common, a koinonia, a commonality. It was a true partnership. Even when my friend was killed, the friendship that I built with him extended to his family. And it was a difficult time for them, for his two sons and his wife. But the nature of law enforcement is that we rally around those who experience tragedies. And as a community, as a koinonia, we gathered together around his family and saw them through the darkest days. The interesting thing was, it wasn't too long after that God sent another person to work with me. And it was my turn to be the mentor, to be the training officer for this new person in the office, to show him the ropes. And we went through much the same process, and we were definitely in one spirit and of one mind. We had many things that we had in common, speaking wise and thinking wise, and we would laugh at the silliest things, but we knew what we were each laughing about. And to this day, he is still a very deep and good friend. The other relationship is with my wife. She is a very deep and wonderful friend. We met when she was 12 and I was 14, and we had no attachments. We saw each other for a week or two, and then I was gone back to California. But we wrote. She wrote me, and I would write back. And there was a time that I didn't write, but I went back and saw her, and we started writing again. So all those years from that time, this was a God's kind of love, a love that only God puts in your heart. It's a love that extends from Him, which is the love that Jesus had, the love that Jesus had extended from God. And that's what John expresses and Fitzgerald brings out, is that it doesn't matter whether they're going to be trustworthy or not. When you have a love from God, that love is always there, and it can never be extinguished. So when God brought the two of us back together again after many years, that love was still there as a foundation. But upon that, a relationship had to be built. A relationship of, we knew who each other were based on the love that God gave us, but we didn't know how the other would act or how the other lived. And that was something we had to find out through becoming deeper friends. The type of friends that Paul talks about. It's about building a relationship. It's about working together. It's about standing together, finding out your commonalities, learning to trust and believe, and eventually knowing that you would die for that person if necessary. Thank you.